to let you in. Please keep in mind to keep your mics muted unless you have any questions. You can interact by raising your hand using the little reactions in your Zoom 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 link. I'm so sorry. But please keep your mic muted until then. We'd really appreciate that. But then if you have any questions, the chat box is open for you to ask any questions. You can find all the handouts in the Wolva app. And we also have access to live transcripts if you wish to see. You can see that in the links below. We hope that you will share your camera with us and we can interact as much as possible. But with that being said, I'd like to welcome Lindy. Lindy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Cassie.
I'm just gonna read your intro. I'm gonna give you a good introduction here. So Lindy Flores is a therapeutic arts practitioner and certified teacher whose passion is mental health advocacy and awareness. As a school counselor and inclusion coordinator at Atikamekw School on the Whitefish First Nations with KTC, Kitaskanau Education Authority in Treaty 8 territory, she integrates her love of the arts with students' well-being and education. Whether it is bringing in her wellness dog and organizing a visit from a Queen Therapy or teaching PFA and mental health first aid to staff, she applies research and data-driven approaches. She's currently working on a Spark Knowledge Translation project for mental health in high school students through the Mental Health Commission of Canada. Lindy is also a strong believer in giving back and volunteering. She applies her experience and interventions as volunteer crisis responder with Kids Help Phone text line as a council member with the Alberta Health Services Provincial Advisory Council for Mental Health and Addictions, and recently become a Red Cross safety and wellbeing supporter, and is a great friend and partner with Everactive Schools. We have to mention that. So thanks, Lindy, for being here, and the floor is now yours.
Thanks, Cassie.
Sorry, Lindy.
No, go ahead,
Just
Katie.
before you can we just hit record? Oh, we did. Okay,
I
perfect.
did.
That's
Yep.
awesome. We just want to capture your session. Amazing. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful session.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Cassie. It's wonderful to be here. I'm so excited. Yeah, when I heard you read my bio, I'm thinking, I heard somebody say once that they're a serial volunteer, and that's kind of me. But when it comes to mental health, I'm really, really passionate about it. So welcome to Therapeutic Arts in the Classroom. Just so you know, all the links that are connected to in this session are on a document that Katie or Cassie are going to share with you, as well as the PDF of this presentation. So before we get into the session, I just want to honor the land and the territory to acknowledge that the traditional territories of the First Nation people of Treaty 6, 7, and 8 are within the province of Alberta, as well as the Métis people of Alberta, who share a deep history with this land, and to recognize Inuit people living within Alberta as well. And it's to express gratitude for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and those who've gone before us. We recognize the land as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. And just recognizing that we're all calling in from different places across the province, please think about how your digital participation occupies land and space through the technology you're using in the room you're sitting in. And if you're unsure of any traditional territories in which you're currently occupying, visit nativeland.ca to learn more. And like Cassie said, I work on Whitefish First Nations at Atikamekw School. And I'm a school counselor, inclusive ed coordinator, art teacher, and therapeutic arts practitioner. And enough about me, let's get into this session. So our agenda today is very simple. Why therapeutic arts? We'll look at some sample lessons that I've done with students, as well as some additional ideas. So just so you know, you're in the right place. This session is focused on the classroom and students, but it can be applied to anyone. The lessons that I have taught and the lessons that I create are primarily for junior and senior high school students. They could be adapted for developmental levels as well. And the session will be very interactive. So be ready to get your art on. So you will need a piece of paper, some kind of mark making tool. So a pencil, pen, markers, crayons, paint, pastels, anything like that, and a few found objects. So there's an example there. It doesn't have to be that many objects, but just a couple of things. If you have some coins close by, a paper clip, a pen works, an extra pen, anything like that. And we'll be moving into that activity a little bit later. So first, let's just do a brief overview of why therapeutic arts. I love this quote. It's only with the heart that one sees rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So with therapeutic arts, we're really looking at that piece with the students that connects to their emotions and their regulation. So therapeutic arts is that intersection between art and basic psychosocial interventions. So if you're not familiar with what psychosocial interventions are, there's a definition here. And they capitalize on psychological or social actions to produce change in psychological, social, biological, and or functional outcomes. And if you're interested in the article that this came out of, I did put the reference there. But to make it simple, psychosocial are all those pieces of our pie or our puzzle that give us well-being. So it's environmental, social, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and then there's always that unknown piece, which I like to make sure I'm cognizant of. It helps me with my assumptions. It helps me with biases. It helps me recognize that the students that are in front of me have a whole wealth of experience, a whole wealth of experiences that they've had that may be bad or good. I don't know, and that's the point. So what I love about therapeutic arts is it's about the process and not the product, and it really focuses on that piece of the puzzle that's emotional. But if we look at the circle or look at it like pie, when one piece of that pie is affected, the others are influenced as well. So if we can raise that emotional efficacy, if we can raise that confidence and that self-esteem, it's going to affect every other piece of that pie. And of course, in school, it also connects to academics. So what therapeutic arts in the classroom is it's not an art class. It's not about art techniques. It's not about the end product, and it's not therapy or clinical intervention. So psychosocial interventions can be real simple, just talking to a peer, talking to somebody, but it can also be actual clinical interventions by a certified psychologist, and that's not this. What it is a way to connect with students' well-being and mental health in authentic ways. It's a way to create relationships. And I do share a little bit of basic art info, so things like color mixing, so the students don't end up with brown when they're using paint, or how to use the material safely and respectfully. But I try and stay away from the art language like foreshortening or perspective or symmetry, all of those pieces that you would find in an art class. For me, that was the really big epiphany when I started learning therapeutic arts, because I have such a passion with mental health and I'm also an art teacher, and it filled in that gap for me. It was an aha moment when we were spending 30 minutes in class talking about types of paper. I was so tired and my eyes were rolling and I thought, what's the point of this? But then when we got to a point where one of the other participants had a real visceral, real physical reaction to one of the pieces of paper, it suddenly made sense to me. So what we're really looking at with therapeutic arts is about mark making, not art making. And the choice of materials and mediums says a lot. So if students are allowed to choose their materials and the mediums that they use, it can give you a lot of insight. Watch for reactions, because often in a classroom situation, it's everybody's doing the same thing at the same time. So we want to have a lot of conversations while they're making the art and have a lot of information around the idea that it's not about the end piece. It's not about the product. And that's really hard to get through to students sometimes. The art is actually a container for the emotions or the strategy that we're looking at. So just a quick note on mediums is the more fluid, the less control. Now that's obvious. So think of, there's a new, well, fairly new to me, it's called alcohol inks, and it's very fluid. It reminds me a little bit of food coloring. and you have very little control with it. Watercolors is another thing. What you'll see with students, especially students who have trauma, who have maybe some physical experiences that are negative, they might have reactions to fluid mediums and where they don't have as much control. The other piece that you'll notice is that reflective distance. So how close you are to the medium and the paper. You really notice that with kids. You might notice it with little kids more, like the ones who don't like getting their hands messy. If you've ever played with a kid with goop or Play-Doh or finger paints, you can notice differences between the kiddos who really like getting their hands in there and being really close to the medium and the paper, and those that don't. And that can really tell you a lot about where they are in that moment, where they are with the process. What you see on the screen is an experiment that my son and I did, and it's where we used a few different mediums and we froze them. So it's ice painting. So what he's doing is he's putting the different mediums onto a piece of paper. So it's a little bit detached. Just his fingers are getting cold. He doesn't actually touch the materials. So it's a bit of a different strategy. When you are If you decide to use therapeutic arts practices in the classroom, you want to pre-teach a little bit. So like I said, how to use the materials correctly, or how to make sure that you don't end up with all brown. You definitely want to model and give examples. Ideally, in a more clinical situation, the student or the client would do their art making, their mark making, and it would be very free flowing. But in a classroom situation, especially self-efficacy and confidence, if it's low, the students won't want to participate. So it's up to me as the teacher to make sure that I'm giving them lots of examples, I'm modeling, I'm talking through it, I'm encouraging the process, and that I give that space afterwards for a debrief as well, and to make sure we're celebrating what we're doing, that it isn't about that final piece that you take home and you put on the fridge. It's really about the process and how much they've engaged in that. So that's my background for therapeutic arts. And I have a question before we start getting into our interactive part. And that's called a MAD T, is my way of gauging where you are. So a MAD T is where I ask a question, you type your answer in the chat, but you don't hit send or enter until I tell you to. So has anybody done this before? Is everybody okay? We all know how to use the chat. I see some heads nodding. Excellent. Okay, so here's our first MAD T question. All it is a yes or no. Do you believe that there is good and bad art? Type yes or no in the chat. I'll give it about 15, 20 seconds, and then I'll say go. So do you believe there's good and bad art? Yes or no? All right, when you're ready, hit enter. Nicely done. So the answer is hoping to hear from you. What I hear by some instructors, I hear it a lot from students, is they do believe there's good and bad art. So my question is why? So if you feel like answering, or you have a theory of why our students believe there's good and bad art, which ends up preventing them from participating in a lot of these activities in a fully engaged way, feel free to answer that question and type it in the chat. Hit enter anytime, and I'll just give it a few more seconds. You might not have an opinion. Many of the reasons why we have students who don't like to participate is fear, validation, not being validated, having been told their art is good or bad in the past. So if you think about how kids are taught art in school, especially in the elementary grades, it's a product that they usually take home for their mom and dad, and it's to put up on the fridge or it's to put up on the wall as part of a display. And often, in fact, more often than not, the process isn't being recognized. I think one of the worst things that I heard was a teacher who said she had them, the students, I think they were in grade 4 in her class. This was a long time ago, so I'm not breaking any anonymity, but she said that one of the students colored her turkey black. And so she took it away from her and threw it away and told her to redo it. And for me, that was just devastating to hear, because I thought, well, why not a black turkey? Why not a pink turkey? Why not a purple turkey? But that's why we get kids in art class or in class doing therapeutic arts, and it's very hard for them to get over it. So I just pulled off some famous artist quotes to give you some tips when you face negative ideas about art. So Salvador Dali, he's that impressionist, he has the melting clock and the weird elephant, and I'm picturing some of his paintings in my head. And he says, have no fear of perfection, you'll never reach it. Bob Ross, who's the happy painter on PBS, says we don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents. Vincent van Gogh, if you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. And then lastly, we have don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad, whether they love it or hate it. And while they're doing that, make even more art. And that's Andy Warhol. And that's my favorite. And that's what I try and encourage with the students, is just get it done. Just do it. Just put the marks on the paper. It's not about it being good or bad. It's about having that release or that outlet for your emotions, and a way to remember how to get that thinking brain back connected with that emotional brain. Okay, here we go. Our first warm-up exercise. So I call this Get the Angst Out. It's a really good way to start a session. It's also an amazing tool if you have kids that are really angry. So what you need is 2 mark-making tools, 1 in each hand, like you see in the picture, 1 piece of paper, and you're gonna make marks and strokes away from you only. So just do, for 30 seconds, you're just going to do this. And I don't know if you can see me very good, but I hope, oh no, I'll move this down a little bit. So you're just going like this with your mark making tools. Okay, so I'm just gonna put my timer on my phone for 30 seconds, and then I'll come back to you. And if you feel like sharing, that's great throughout this session. If you don't feel like sharing, you don't have to. Please do what you're comfortable with. Okay, so ready, set, go. Make your strokes. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. How was that? You can use the reaction button. You can type in the chat. My son uses this a lot now. When he's angry, I'll put a piece of paper in front of him, and the anger's gone. He just gets it out, and then we're able to talk. It's way better than saying, use your words or calm down. And I'm just looking at the chat. I really appreciate the comments. Students are so familiar with the good bad binary and could easily apply that to art. Absolutely. I feel that art is good because any art that is created means something to the artist. Wonderful. I love that. I feel that the meaning to the creator is more important than the meaning for the external standard. Yes, I love that. And the last comment I've seen, bad, but is considered good art. I've seen good art that's considered bad art, but is the good art bad and the bad art good? It sounds like a very philosophical question. Art is all about perspective. No perspective is better or worse than the other. So there is no good art and there's no bad art. It's a tool and about the process. Yes, thank you. Wonderful comments. Okay, so let's get into some sample lessons, and these are on a PDF that I think Katie or Cassie's going to upload for you. If you want the actual slides, you're welcome to them. I'm happy to share them as well. But this is what I use in class. So I start with strategies or things we do to feel better. And the first thing I try and start with is get the upper and lower brain working again. And I always start with some rules. And one of the rules is art supplies. Use carefully, follow instructions. Though I have to admit, it does tell you a lot about a student if they are throwing the clay down or they're squeezing the tube or they're trying to smear the glue all over each other. Right away, you know that kid's trying to tell you something. And once you get them used to the process, then it becomes part of that idea of respect within the classroom. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they don't think that they're any good at art. So one of the things that can really help reinforce the idea of mark making is doing some introductory lessons. And this also really helps with transitions. So on here I have Zentangles. Repetition, like Zentangles, or if you think of those adult coloring books, it's connected to regulation. And if you think about a heartbeat or you think about music and the repetition of a melody, it's really soothing. Our breathing is repetition. So when you think of art, there's a few ideas of repetition on here. You can't really see down in the bottom, there's a yellow splotch, and it's actually the repetition of just painting those yellow in a circular way over and over and over again. That's repetition. We have repetition in the form of symbols. We have repetition in the form of colors. We have repetition in the form of shapes. And of course, with our breathing, this is a really good chance to connect that idea of breathing with repetition and art. And that's the whole point of the therapeutic arts, at least what I do in the classroom. I'm constantly trying to connect it to strategies that connect to wellness and mental health. This actually is a poster that comes from Bell's Let's Talk, and just to promote it, it's here tomorrow. There's a Let's Talk toolkit, and I have the link there on the page. It's also on the document that I gave Katie to share. So let's just do some calm breathing. And if you focus on your belly, we can do some repetition with our breathing. We can do the counting. We can count with our breath in to 4 and out for 4. We can have the students feeling their belly move in and out. Just the repetition of the breath is great. Feeling their stomach expand and the hand move out. It's all of that somatic experience. It's that physical experience that's really going to bring them in and get them regulated and learn how to do that. It's about training that part of their brain. And I'm hoping that my internet speed is good and we can hear this, but this connects to the idea of repetition in art and how it's almost meditative. So if you feel like drawing and along with the lady in the video, you're welcome to, or just sit back and watch.
The Zentangle method is an easy-to-learn, relaxing, and fun way to create beautiful images by drawing structured patterns.
Let me tell you the story of the Great Interruption. Many years ago, I was in my studio, drawing small patterns in the background of a piece of artwork. I had been drawing for about 3 hours when Rick interrupted me. I awoke out of a reverie so beautiful I did not want it to stop. He told me I was describing meditation and that he was really surprised that I was able to achieve this state so simply. We knew then and there that we had to teach this technique to others. This was the birth of Zentangle Method. The rest is history.
We felt that what had just happened in that moment was really important. We talked about why Maria experienced such unique feelings of selflessness, of timelessness, and effortlessness as she drew those simple patterns. We thought about all the people over the years who gave their reasons why they weren't artists and couldn't be creative. Anyone who could sign their name already knew everything necessary to draw what Maria was working on when I interrupted her. Could we find a simple method to teach others to draw these patterns? Might they also be able to access the same relaxed state of focus that Maria experienced? We had to find out. So we took the inspiration of that moment and recorded all of our thoughts and conversations over the next 2 days.
Oh, that was a great time. We went to a bed and breakfast and had the place all to ourselves.
We bought a blank book and we just wrote down the conversation.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
And we haven't changed anything since then. So after that, we just began to share the Zentangle method. Our belief that everyone is an artist and that each person benefits from expressing their innate creativity has proven more true than we could have imagined. And we believe that you too are an artist.
Welcome to the Zentangle website.
My name is Rick.
I love that. I love that because we have so many people in our classrooms teaching the kids about breathing and yoga and meditation and mindfulness and all that kind of wonderful strategies and techniques. But I don't know if you had the experience with any of your kiddos that are rolling their eyes and they're a little tired of it. I know my son comes home and he's like, I had to do yoga again today, and I'm a yoga teacher, so there you go. So what I really like about therapeutic arts and what that video shared is kids end up getting into that state of mind without even realizing it. And that's a wonderful part for as counseling comes the idea that if you sit in front of a child and say, okay, tell me how you're feeling today, chances are they're going to close up. But if I give them a piece of paper and get them to draw or to do some coloring or give them my guitar and get them to strum a few chords, all of a sudden it opens up and it opens up this new space to them. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So when we think of repetition, there's Zentangles, and I have the website for their Zentangle website, which is amazing. But there's also things like lines, shapes, dots, coloring in artwork. So there's Kandinsky, another famous artist that comes to mind is Jackson Pollock. He just kind of flicked paint. This is the Kandinsky lines in the music lab on Chrome. So I use this as a way to pre-teach what I'm going to be moving into with the students. It's also a neat way to connect lines to the art and the music. Is it in the, it is there. So if you get a chance, can you click on it? And I'll just let you play with it for a few moments. So it's the last link in the chat. It says Music Lab, chromeexperiments.com, Kandinsky. And then just type in the chat when you're done, when you've had a moment to play with it. Isn't it? Yeah, Rebecca, it's like really cool that Chrome, the music lab on Chrome has a lot of different connections to music and then color as well. Nice. So this is a way to start getting them to understand mark making instead of art making. So instead of a product, we're just making a bunch of lines. It's nice because then it can connect to things like math with patterns. It can connect to music. So now that you've had some time to play with the Kandinsky on the Chrome Lab, I'm going to put a timer on and you're going to go for it. You can use the lines that you already started drawing with your 2 markers or whatever you had in your 2 hands, or you can start a brand new one. It's totally up to you. When the timer's done, I'll give you a moment. If you want to show us your creation to the video, you can. Otherwise, you just do what you're comfortable with. So I'm going to start the timer now. So your task is in a minute or less, you're going to create a Kandinsky, and there's an example on the page for you as well. And there we are, that's a minute. So I'll show you mine. I don't know if you can see it very well. I gotta turn my light off. So what I like about doing the Zentangles first, it really does give inspiration, because I find even with me, I'm thinking of those Zentangle patterns. Does anybody else want to share?
Sure.
Nice.
I think I've heard somewhere that
Oh.
creativity is theft. So whenever I was running out of ideas, I just looked up at what was on the slide and drew some inspiration from there.
That's perfect. Nicely done, Rebecca.
Yeah. It was really cool to just have a minute to do it, because then I couldn't like think too much about it. It was like just do something.
That's the perfect thing. Yeah, time limits, giving them that kind of boundary, and then they don't have that time to compare with each other, especially in class. Another cool thing you could do with this is have partners or groups. Before COVID, I did a session with a bunch of teachers and we did group doodling, and it was a lot of fun. And it's a way to overcome that fear of being in a group and doing art. So here's some other examples of repetition. So we did tinfoil prints, and that's where you put paper on a piece of tinfoil and then you put paper on top of it. So here's an example of just one repetition with that. It's nice too, because you get the kiddos right in the paint and they're spreading it around their tinfoil. This is actually a session I did with an adult who's experiencing physical issues within their back neck region. And the first print, we discussed it, and then he did the second print, and it was a really cool experience because the first print was all about the pain and the spinal injury and fear, and the second print was a bit of an opening up, and it opened up to some hope and looking at things that they're grateful for and recognizing that the pain doesn't have to control their life. So it's really neat when you get that chance to have that conversation. And these are a few student examples. So you see, and anybody who's put paper to paint. You see that when you do repetition, it gets less and less paint on the page, but it's really cool to see the patterns that come out. And this is another example. So putting some dots and some lines of paint on a piece of paper and then just taking a paintbrush, and you'll see on the right, that was the result. And then I actually did squish the two papers together again. And it's a really nice background for anything. So you could extend the activity. And in this case, it was adding two symbols that represented me. And then I just put them on top like a collage. So some other ideas, if you want to do repetitive activities for yourself or your students, mandalas are really good. You can do a lot of different variations of it. You can even do the mandala where you get them to build something out of rocks, for instance, and then they take it apart. And that is really freeing and very healing, is when you create something and then you pull it apart, and it's very symbolic. So it's that idea of letting go. On the picture here, it's a mandala about self-care, and it's a collage. So going through a magazine and then picking out things that connected to self-care and adding words, and then the mandala got in more and more into the core. Those kind of things are really, I would suggest, really enlightening for yourself. If you have that space and you have that time to do something like that. For me, when I was doing this mandala, I started to recognize my outer part for the self-care was all nature. It was all outdoor activities. And I thought, when's the last time I went outside? So it made me realize, okay, my self-care, I need to pay more attention to it. Another thing I get students to do is look for lines in their space and look for patterns and just repeat that. Observing repetition in the environment and trying to capture it. And then, of course, drawing to the beat of the music is also very, very funky. Another way to introduce therapeutic arts into the class is using found objects. So the best way to describe it is think of your junk drawer. And this is a junk drawer that I added things to. So you see there's a butterfly, the deer, the glasses. So if I was doing this online, I asked the students to pick an object that they think represents themselves and then talk about it or draw about it. This is the one that I showed at the beginning of the session. So if you have anything around you that's a found object, so it could be something as simple as an eraser or another pen or a paper clip, or like in the instance on this picture, I have coins, I have a piece of a carrot, I have an earring, I have a couple of pieces of cutlery. So this is leading up to your next activity. So you're going to pick a found object. So if you don't have anything around you, you can pick something off of this tray that you see. So it might be an orange because you're sweet, or you might pick the coin because right now you're really focused on financial freedom. You're close to retirement. I don't know. So you're going to draw a picture with that object in it. So before you start, I'll show you a couple of examples. So here's a couple examples. The first is just a couple of quick sketches using the found object. And then as I got more comfortable with it, you can see on the right, the coins are the wheels on the car, and then the cranberries are actually the leaves on the tree. And then we have the orange slice at the top of the page for the sun, and she's taking her elephant for a walk. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And if you need more time, that's fine, but I'll put the timer on again. You're going to get 2 minutes and just do a few sketches with your found objects. Here we go. that's it. So I don't know if you feel like sharing. I'll show you mine. So I happen to have a badminton birdie. I don't know if I can do this. It's kind of hard to share, I know. So that's his nose. And there's his eyes. So it's supposed to be a bear. So if anybody else wants to share, you can put your. It's hard, I know, with the found objects though, isn't it? Ah,
That's
oh
my
yeah, I like that,
pen.
Rebecca. That's awesome. That's cool. And if you're interested, there's a lot of examples on the internet that are very, very cool. So great work, everyone. That was our introduction. So we're going to move into these 3 sample lessons that I do. And it's really just scaffolding on the idea of regulation, strategies, coping skills, and just that intersection between mental health and art. So again, strategies are things we do to feel better. We're going to get that upper and lower brain, and then I go through the rules. And what we're going to be doing in this lesson is activating our happy place to get our downstairs brain talking to our upstairs brain. And this is another poster that comes from Bellette's talk about the calm place. But first we need to figure out what happens when we lose control. So we need to learn, why do we flip our lid and how do we get calm again? And then we're going to draw our way to get our upstairs brain and downstairs brain talking again. So what I have is a short video, and with the upper elementary is the lowest grade that I've gone to teach this with, grade 6. The high school and junior high kids, I always preface this with, this is for kids, but sometimes it helps us understand a little bit better when we think about kids or we watch kids, about what it means to be deregulated or to be out of control. And I know we all flip our lids no matter how old we are, and we all need to learn ways to get that downstairs and that upstairs brain connected again. And then I show the video. So here we go.
Kids want to know. Imagine that you really want to play soccer at lunchtime, but when the bell rings, you can't find your shoes. When you finally get out to the field, the teams have been picked and it's too late for you to play. Maybe you got so mad that this small problem became a big problem in an instant. When we lose control of our emotions like this, we can call it flipping your lid, kind of like the way a pot might do if it was too full and too hot. A little while later, after you've cooled down, you might even feel sad when you realize that when you had a big reaction to a little problem, you could have hurt someone's feelings. What if I told you that this happens to everyone? Your parents, friends, teachers, and everyone else you know can flip their lid and lose control of their emotions sometimes. We all need to work on managing our feelings. Have you ever wondered why we can have such a hard time keeping our emotions under control? It can be really tough being a kid these days. There's just so much going on every day, at home, at school, even after school. Sometimes it's hard to keep a lid on things, and we act in ways that are not kind or caring, even though we don't mean to be hurtful. There are so many situations that we encounter every day that can cause our emotions to bubble up. Maybe you felt upset or frustrated when you were working on a problem or activity at school and just can't seem to get it right. Maybe something unexpected or embarrassing happened to you in front of your friends. Maybe you had something important to say, but didn't get a chance to say it. These and many, many more situations can cause both kids and adults to flip their lids. So why does this even happen? Well, it has to do with the way our amazing human brains work to help keep us safe. This is your brain, the part of your body that controls everything you do. Let's take a closer look at the parts of the brain and how they can work together to help us keep a lid on things. The brain is a pretty complicated organ, so we're going to use our hand to help us visualize what's happening up there. Let's imagine that our brain has an upstairs and a downstairs. Here, where our thumb is called the midbrain. This is where our emotions and memories are created and stored. Below that is your brainstem. The brainstem controls the things our bodies do that we don't have to think about, like breathing. It also controls our automatic reactions to certain situations. For example, if you touch a cup with hot tea in it and it's too hot, your downstairs brain feels the pain and will pull your hand away to stop you from getting burnt. It's an automatic reaction. You don't have to stop and think about what to do. Or imagine you're out on a hike and a bear wanders onto the path. Your brain doesn't stop and think, what kind of bear is it? Is it friendly? Your downstairs brain notices that you feel scared, it takes charge, and in a split second decides whether or not you should fight, fly, another word for run away, or freeze. Because of the way our downstairs brain reacts to these situations, we can think of it as our emotional brain because it reacts instantly without needing to think things through. It's always ready to take charge in any situation to help keep you safe. So if this is our downstairs brain, then this part where the back of our hand and fingers are can be seen as our upstairs brain. It's called the cerebral cortex. This part of our brain helps us think logically, act with kindness, and think about how others might be feeling. It's also the problem-solving part of our brain. It helps us to think of possible solutions to a problem and decide which one is best. The upstairs brain is our thinking brain. Your upstairs and downstairs brain don't work alone. Your brain is set up so that the upstairs and downstairs brain can communicate with itself. It sends messages from section to section all the time about what our bodies feel and need. Let's take a closer look at our brain fist. Where our fingertips are is the logic and reasoning part of the brain that springs into action when we have a problem to solve, and usually it does a great job of doing it. But sometimes it can have a hard time solving a problem if the emotional brain and thinking brain can't communicate well enough. This can happen if your emotions get too overwhelming and your downstairs brain decides that this situation might be dangerous, even if it isn't really. And we all know what happens when our downstairs brain thinks you're in danger. It triggers our fight, flight, or freeze reflex. Our emotions start to bubble up, and then suddenly everything boils over. We flip our lids. This can look like a scary, angry reaction, or it might be crying or running away from a problem. Now that we've flipped our lids, see how far away our fingertips are from the midbrain? When our lids are flipped, our upstairs and downstairs brain can't talk to each other. Our emotions have become too strong and we can't think clearly and can't solve the problem in a peaceful way. So what can we do to stop us from flipping our lid? Well, it all starts with realizing that we're about to flip our lid and then turning down the heat so it doesn't happen. Remember that soccer game we talked about at the beginning of the video and you were really upset and didn't get to play? Maybe you felt your tummy rumble or you felt your face getting hot? Did your heart start to pound, and did you feel your hands start to clench? Were you frustrated, disappointed, and angry? These types of strong feelings are all indicators that you might be close to flipping your lid. If you feel this start to happen, it's a good idea to walk away, take some deep breaths, and look for an adult to talk to before you flip your lid. It might be a parent, grandparent, coach, teacher, or another trusted adult nearby. They can help you with strategies to solve the problem once you've calmed down enough for your upstairs brain to be ready to do some peaceful problem solving. If you do flip your lid, those same trusted adults can offer you some time and space to cool down before you start to problem solve together. Once your upstairs brain is back in charge, you can share your story and get some help. Using I statements can help you to tell an adult what you need. I need a hug. I need you to listen to what I have to say. I need another chance. I need some alone time. I need a walk. I need you to see that I can do well. Learning more about the brain and how it works can really help us to understand our emotions and to be peaceful problem solvers. When we listen to our bodies and our brains, we can turn the challenges of being a kid into opportunities to learn and grow. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in
And I really, really, really like that because I can relate to it. And even now, it's like my COVID brain. I can often flip my lid. So it's a really nice way to introduce the therapeutic part to adults and kids
learning more about the brain,
alike.
kids want to know.
There we go. So one of the things that we try and imagine is, what does it look like when we lose control in an artistic way? And what you'll see there is a medium called colored glue. If you get a chance, most of the items or the mediums that I use in class are just from the dollar store. There's nothing fancy about it. And colored glue is amazing, and it changes the way it looks from the first time you put it on the page to when it dries. And this was a piece that my son and I did together. And then we think about, okay, so what does it look like when I'm calm? And that was the representation that he made with the colored glue. So this is the segue into your next activity. So I want you to think about a place or activity that makes you feel calm. So if you practice or understand self-care and you have a lot of pieces to that, try and focus on one or two. It might be music, it might be cuddling with your pet. I think Cassie once said that it was her bed, her pillow, or am I thinking someone else? There's going to the fair, cotton candy. There might be going for a hike in the mountains. It might just be sitting under a tree. So just take a moment to think about that for yourself. Another way, I'm just going to give you some more prep around it. So you can think about, where do you feel the most relaxed? So you can close your eyes or not. It's completely up to you. Imagine you're there. What do you see? What do you hear? And are there any smells, tastes, or textures? So you're thinking of your calm place. It might be that place where you go and you just feel a sigh. You can think of details with it, like there would be music or there would be animals, because that's what makes me get to my happy place. And now here's the art part. What you're going to do is you're going to make your representation of your happy place, of your calm place, your relaxing place. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and it can be detailed. It can be just colors, shapes, no details. It's completely up to you. So I'll put the timer on for 5 minutes, and it can be words too. So if you're feeling kind of stuck for, how do I draw something, or, I want to capture this in a better way, then definitely what you need to do is just go with what feels right. So Kathy, I think you entered late. Where we are right now is where we've thought of our happy place, our calm place, and we're going to make a representation of it. So I'm going to put a timer on for 5 minutes, and it can be just colors. It can be like trees, mountains, your bed, whatever your happy place is. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Okay, so we're not done yet. So you're going to have some more time to work on that. Now this is the next part of your assignment. Okay, so you've got your happy place sketched out. Now I want you to, you can close your eyes or not, picture this. A very friendly alien is carrying a surfboard and he's wearing pink flip-flops. Okay, so you picture a surfboarding alien wearing pink flip-flops. It might be a she, it might be he, it might be it. Add the surfboarding alien with pink flip-flops to your picture, anywhere in your picture. So the example on here is the happy place was greenery, and then the surfboarding alien is laying down for a nap, and you can't see his or her face, but you can see the pink flip-flops. Okay, so you get another 5 minutes to work on it, so you can keep adding to your happy place if you want, but you need to put in your pink flip-flop wearing surfboarding alien. Okay, here we go. And there we go. So, does anybody want to share? I'll show you my, see if I can see it. So mine's the mountains is my happy place. There's music there, and you can see my alien surfboarder with pink flip-flops is on top of one of my mountains. And again, you only share what you're comfortable with. If you want to hold it up to the video and show us your picture.
I can share. I don't know if you can see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It's
I
my
love
little
that.
cabin, but also camping and all the trees and my tent. And then my abstract little alien. I didn't have any colors.
That's okay.
It's
You can imagine it. Nice. That's great.
Okay, I'll share mine too.
Okay.
Mine started off kind of funny. This is my favorite. I'm doing digital stuff, trying to.
Yeah.
It's not very good. This is me and Jax at
Ooh,
Long Lake.
I love it.
We're about to go surfing and watching the sandals boat on the lake.
It's awesome. That is so cool. Anyone else want to share?
I did. There's a little pond outside of Calgary,
Ooh.
Forget Me Not Pond in Bragg Creek, and
Yes.
it's one of my absolute most favorite places in the world. So I've got my little alien there with his little paddleboard ready to go.
I love
And
it.
yeah.
That's so cool. I grew up in Calgary, so I know exactly where you're talking about, which is why I'm a mountain lover. Nicely done. Anyone else interested? No. Here we go. So remember if you're doing this with someone else, it can be a representation of it. You can stretch their brain, remove the boundaries. The reason why I do lots of examples with the students is because I'm on a time frame, and a lot of them won't start if they don't have an idea. And again, it's that sense of confidence and efficacy that's low. What if I do it wrong? What if it doesn't look good? All of those kind of things. So I give them lots of examples. So you can see that the pink alien flip-flopper is that pink line in the paint there. And this is called pour painting. You can put it in this is an old dustpan, put some paint in it. You want some kind of medium that it'll flow with, and then you pour it out, and it makes all kinds of cool shapes. So the purpose of this lesson is if you flip your lid or you need to get your upstairs brain connected to your downstairs brain, all you have to do is think of your surfboarding alien with pink flip-flops. So the purpose of this is twofold, really. First of all, to think about happy, calm places, because that is a strategy that you'll often hear, at people using with kids or with their spouse or with their friends. Breathe deep, think of a calm place, think of your happy place. But then if you put yourself in their shoes, or think about a time when you're dysregulated, your downstairs brain is totally in control, and someone says, just go to your happy place. Sometimes people might want to slug you, or you're going to make it worse. You're going to trigger them. So what the pink flip-flops does is it gets that limbic system in play, the emotional memory part, because you actually have to think, okay, what does an alien look like? And you actually have to think about the pink flip-flops. And what it does is it takes that upstairs and downstairs brain that's separated, and it just goes slump, and it puts them back together. And the glue is the pink flip-flop wearing surfboarder alien. So if you do that with a spouse, for instance, you could tell your spouse or your partner or friend, hey, you know what? If I'm really, really angry, just tell me to think of my pink flip-flop wearing alien surfboarder and see what happens. An extension you can do with this is you can have them draw and compare downstairs and upstairs brain. So you see there's the downstairs brain is feeling really anxious and out of control, and then the upstairs brain was my green place with my sleeping alien. So that's it for that lesson. So lesson number 2, strategies are things we do to feel better, is using modeling clay. So I'm not going to ask you to do that because we don't have modeling clay necessarily, but I always go into a review. So what did we learn about the last lesson? We learned about the upstairs and downstairs brain, about flipping our lid. We thought of our calm place. We thought of things that make me feel happy and calm. And when I'm out of control, I think I get someone to tell me, think about my pink flip flop wearing surfboarding alien. And it helps me get my upstairs and my downstairs brain connected again. So let's think about other strategies. And a strategy is something I can do or something I can use to help me. I remind them. And here's a really wonderful video about a strategy that has to do with breathing.
I get really mad when my brother hits me a lot.
I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me.
When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting.
Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red.
When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body.
I just get out of control. It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel like. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks. And it's like spinning around and then you don't have any time to think. And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it.
When I get angry, I feel it in my heart.
I really don't like when I get angry. The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down.
When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes, take deep breaths. First you find a place.
Love that video. And then
I get really mad
when you play it in a classroom, it's amazing to see the reactions of the students in the class. And it's a really good review of upstairs, downstairs brain. You can include the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex as your downstairs and upstairs. You can also really emphasize the idea of the physical reactions when our brain is dysregulated. So when that downstairs brain takes over, what does it feel like? Because often kids will notice the physical reactions first and not really understand what's going on. So once they start understanding that physical reaction, that awareness kicks in quicker for them. Another thing I do is share Kids Help Phone website. I can't promote it enough. I know I'm a crisis responder with them, but they have vetted materials, they have tools, games, resources, amazing amount of material that you can share. And this, what was going while I was talking, is another tool on breathing. And breathing, some people have a hard time with it because if there are some people, like in our school, there's different religious beliefs. And so the idea of breathing and meditation doesn't align with that. So we have to be mindful of the fact that, mindfulness and breathing and meditation are borrowed from another philosophy, an Eastern philosophy. And though they're good strategies, we also have to recognize that they're not. They're appropriated, they're assimilated into a lot of our practices in the schools, and not everybody abides by them. So I really focus on the physical part of breathing rather than the going to the meditation part and the yoga part. There's some other ideas that you can do to teach breathing. So there's the bubbles, blowing a bubble. There's smelling a flower. So smelling the deep flower and smelling out, blowing out. There's blowing the party favor. And then the birthday cake is an amazing one. If you use it in a big class, you pretend that you have a birthday cake and you tell everyone, okay, blow out the candles. And you see the first thing that they do is they go, and they blow out. And a lot of these breathing techniques, that deep breath in is something that's difficult to focus on or to concentrate on, but it's so natural when it comes to a cake. So I use that one a lot. And then this flower is an example of modeling a strategy. So I call it my coping flower, and it has different colored petals for different strategies. So blue is talking, pink is music, red is running or exercising, orange is deep breaths, pink red is my alien surfboarder with pink flip-flops, and yellow is art. And this connects to the idea of self-care. It also connects to the idea of, if you're working with older kids or adults, when it comes to safety plans. So when we're talking about assessing for risk of, someone who is thinking of harming themselves or thinking of suicide, and you're moving into that plan, this is a really good way to think about, how do I stay safe? What are the things that make me feel better? So it's got a lot of applications. So again, I won't get you to do this. This is just an example of a lesson plan that I teach, and then I tell them to model their downstairs brain and their upstairs brain. And for the older kids, they write a reflection. So I thought of a storm and the tree, and then some of the kids, one did a little black cat for their downstairs brain, and then nutrition was something that was a strategy. So they were doing, I had a lot of students doing fruits and vegetables. It was really cool. And here's an example of one with a reflection. So the wavy anxiety lady, my body gets floaty. I feel like I'm melting. I feel out of control. My hair sticks up, my eyes bug out. I'm scared. Seals breathe underwater. They breathe deeply. They blow out bubbles. Thinking about my seal can help me calm my downstairs brain when I feel anxiety. So I take my seal for a walk was the reflection for this. And there's another one, the downstairs brain is like a monster with horns and fangs. And then the flower is the coping strategies. So take deep breaths if I feel anxious. I can do art, listen to music, think of my surfboarding alien. So it's a way of bringing it to life. So it's not just go to your happy place or why don't you just breathe deeply or just calm down. So we've got ways to try and mitigate those pieces of advice in a really tangible way. Okay, I just want to check what time it is. This goes till 3:50, right, Katie?
That's right.
Okay, good. So we'll just do a quick mindfulness activity. I'll put the timer on. I don't think I have one on here, so I'll just do one for 2 minutes. I'll give you a countdown. But what you're going to do is draw a figure of yourself, and you're taking your mind for a walk. So it's called walking the mind. And what you do for the next 2 minutes is when you have a thought, you write it, you put a balloon above your head, and then you write down that thought or you draw a representation of it. So it might be If it's about somebody, it might just be the initials of the person, or it might just be a stick figure face or a happy face. So the example here is my example, and it was thinking about mindfulness, and I have things like my son Oliver and parenting, daily stuff, housekeeping stuff. I have projects that are on my mind that get me away from enjoying my moment. So it connects to that idea of calmness and happy place in the moment. So what's maybe pulling us away from experiencing where we are and from being mindful. Okay, so 2 minutes, and I'll give you a countdown when we get close to the end of it. Okay, 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, if you feel like sharing, I'll share mine. Was just a quick one. But I had that picture of walking my mind, so I actually did a little mind on a leash. And then I just thought of the ways mine were right now was just feelings, tired, sad, and what was the other one? Fearful. So that's been kind of where I am today, or what seems to be my theme lately. Does anyone else want to share? Again, only share what you're comfortable with.
This is my sheet, and my third thought was these bubbles look like the trees from Whoville. So I wrote that down, and then I started drawing the trees.
That's awesome. And it is a good exercise if you do have trouble with meditation and you do want to learn meditation. There's a lot of advice out there, and because I am a yoga teacher and I have taught meditation, is there is no right or wrong way, and it's not about eliminating those thoughts. It's about being aware of them, and eventually you can pop that balloon, right? And then you're back in the moment. And that's all for me what mindfulness is. It's just popping that balloon because I can never be free of emotions or thoughts as a human being. And I'm not quite at the Buddhist level where I can be, enlightened and have no feelings or thoughts in that moment. So the extension activity that you can do with kiddos is blow real balloons and let them go, especially if it's things that are on their mind. You can actually do an activity where it's mindfulness about a specific situation. And then those balloon thoughts, you can pop them in figuratively or literally. There's on Kids Help Phone, there's a game called Worry Rockets. Oh, I forgot I had a timer there. Okay, so the last lesson that I'm going to show you is strategies are things we do to feel better. We're remembering the strategies we modeled. So that was my sad and my calm and peaceful images from when I was modeling them. And to refresh their memories, we look at strategies or ways to cope with how we feel or with things we are going through. Coping skills can be practiced. So just like learning the guitar, just like learning how to skate, just like figuring out how to do addition, it's a skill that we can practice. What I usually do is do a tour of the Kids Help Phone website. I've got it on that handout for you, so you can take a look at it on your own. And then we just discuss some of the different strategies that are on there. This grounding strategy is really for someone who's really out of control, as well as for anxiety. So it's a way of, you can use your fingers. A lot of people teach it using their fingers. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel or touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And that's enough to, again, redirect. So you're getting from that downstairs brain to that upstairs brain. And by noticing and thinking of things you can see, hear, feel, and smell and touch, it makes it connect back together. So it makes that upstairs brain go back in touch with that downstairs brain and communicate again. So what we're going to do is we're going to doodle it. So I'll show you what I mean by that. This is your challenge, contour drawing. If you've never done it before, your only rule is you can't pick up your mark making tool. So if you're using a pencil, you can't pick it up. You have to use one continuous line. So you can see on the left are faces, and then on the right is a very linear kind of horse. And that takes practice. So don't think that it's going to look like what you see and what you hear. We're going to do this for 2 minutes. But the instructions are on here. And what's another way to connect back to mindfulness and being in the moment, get the kids, wiggle your toes. When's the last time you felt your toes? Okay, wiggle your rear end and feel it on the seat. When's the last time you felt that? Put your shoulders up to your ears and let them drop. Okay, now take a deep breath and look to the right and say what you see. I see a door. Look to the left, say what you see. You get them to say it out loud. I see a window. Look in front, say what you see. I see my computer. Look behind, say what I see. I see my books. Look up, say what you see. I see the ceiling with the light, and look down and I see my feet. And then once you get them to go through all of that, they flip over their paper and they start drawing what they remember. And the challenge is to do one that's a contour drawing without lifting the pen. You can lift the pen if you want to, but that's just your challenge. So this is, I think, our last activity we're going to do together, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So take a look through the instructions again, look to the right, the left, in front, behind, up and down. And when you're ready, go to your paper and just start drawing for 2 minutes and see what you can remember what you see. And here we go. And there it is. So mine, I tried doing some contour drawing and then I just gave up. It was an interesting challenge. So anyone else want to share? We're getting near the end, so I don't want to take up too much more of,
I don't know if you could see this. I tried to draw a door.
let's see.
I don't know if you could see it.
Oh yeah, I can. Nice. Did you do it contour drawing? Not lifting?
Yes, I did.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, contour
It's
drawing
my
is challenging. Ooh, look at that.
workroom. It's quite a mess.
I know. That's why I gave up, because I thought, oh, I have too many things in my hand to draw.
I only got as far as drawing the open closet to my right.
Oh, that looks good though.
It's because I took
Nicely
2 full
done.
minutes on it.
That's beautiful. Okay. Good job, everyone. Another extension activity, and this is a poster that comes from the Bell Let's Talk, is listen. So instead of seeing, you can get them to listen. So this one has sounds far away, sounds close up, listen for a minute, focus on sounds inside your body, and that kind of thing. And then they could draw it. So that would, I haven't done this one yet. I think it'd be really cool. So I'm just wrapping up with some additional ideas. This is something that I did with the students because I'm also an English teacher this year. And one thing was concrete poetry. I love. There's a poem generator online that we did, and then I showed them some examples of concrete poetry. So poetry that is the shape of what the poem is about. And then I showed them blackout poetry. And what I found was a bunch of books that the library was going to throw out because they were really old. And what I did was I showed them all of these examples where they could pick out pieces of the page, and they could pick out words, and it could make sense or it doesn't have to make sense, is what I told them. And I gave them all different sheets of paper. So some people drew on it, and then some people just picked out the words and then drew on it. So there was all sorts of ways to approach it, which is really fun. You really do need a couple of lessons, a couple of classes, I mean, to do this well, because it takes a long time. I know people who do it for fun. They'll take books and they'll repurpose them with art. And this is an example of transforming a book. So cutting it, seeing how the combinations of words fit together. So this is going a bit more into that prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, because of the words. It takes it a bit away from the emotions, but it's a nice way to play with it. And then of course the art part of decorating the book is a lot of fun. And these are some student examples. So we just had everything spread all out. They all had pieces of paper, and then they had different artifacts that they could glue onto it, and it made it a lot of fun. Another thing that is I would suggest is doing a gratitude moment. So whether it's to start the class or transition, or if you're talking about bullying, being non-judgmental, that sort of thing, is having a gratitude jar. So this is my marble jar of being non-judgmental. And it was more about a reflection on myself. So not comparing myself to others, being okay with not being liked. So it kind of connects to things like anxiety and hypervigilance, making, that low confidence that can interfere with that feeling of efficacy. Being grateful makes you more patient. There's also positive psychology that says gratitude makes you smarter. So you're 33% smarter if you think of 3 things you're grateful for before you start a new project or learn something. What we did this morning, because we have a lot of loss in the community and a lot of people are dealing with loss in general, loss of being able to go to work, and loss of regular routines. So we did a jam board where it's kind of like doing annotations on Zoom, but through Google Meet, and we just added in our own ideas of gratitude. This one's a lot of fun. You can create a composite piece, so you can use cards, you can use different ways to create pictures in their minds. So this one, the card number 1, was a strategy of creating a mandala for self-care. Card 2 was berry picking, so you can pick out some berries in that. Card 3 was about an elk. So it was one of those cards, elk represents loyalty and strength. And then card number 4 was a Christmas, card about Christmas. So the green and the red colors. So those kind of things you can have fun with, and it's like you can shoot for the moon with it. It doesn't matter what you use, just as long as it's stimulating some imagination. This would be a good activity either. Well, I find it really good for one-on-one, as well as you could use it for an introductory activity for someone to respond to a series of questions if you want to get to know them through an art activity. So this was something that represents your spirit, and then the path went to something you love doing, then the path went to something you're ashamed of, and then the path went to somewhere you want to visit. And again, the sky's the limit when it comes to questions and things that can promote that idea of a map. You can do it with a spouse or partner, and some of the questions are, what was the first thing I wore? Or what was I wearing when I met you? What's my favorite food? And you have to draw the map of each other. It's called a love map. It's pretty cool. And collage, everybody's done collage, obviously. Mixed mediums, so paint, words, paper clips. The wear your face was the mask collage that we did at the beginning of the year. And then, of course, it doesn't have to be marks on paper to play and create. So I used to have an make anything box in my class, and it was full of recycled stuff, extra paper. We didn't throw anything away. And when we had a break, they could go to the make anything box, and it was amazing, some of the things that they created. Found objects, collage making, painting with ice, I talked about. So even the play part, so playing with sand, creating designs in a sand, creating Lego, that's considered art therapy. Goop, making goop, creating boxes so you can create memories, especially for grief. It's a really nice way to honor somebody who you've lost. You can sculpt with recyclables, and the other cool thing is sculpting with things from the environment. And then to wrap up, I just want to remind you that tomorrow is Bell Let's Talk Day. So let's get out there and talk about mental health. Let's reduce stigma. And one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, because I'm part of the Alberta Health Services Mental Health and Addictions Committee, and one of the board members is with the Organization for Bipolar Affective Disorders. This is a free event tomorrow night. It's art mental health event. So you'll get to share some art and some talk about mental health. And that is on the piece of paper, the document that I gave to Katie. It's getting late. So thank you, everyone. I had so much fun creating art with you. It was amazing. If you have any questions, we can I can stay on for a few more minutes. If there's anything you want to share or talk about, I'm happy to. And the links are also in the PDF document. So it's all there. And thank you so much for having me present. This was so much fun.
Yes, that was so good. Thank you so much, Lindy. Yes, there's about 3 minutes for questions or comments, anything would like to share. We do have to end right at 3:50. So we have 3 minutes if you'd like to say anything. You can say it in a chat box.
Thanks,
or
Cassie.
feel free to. Jacqueline says, this has been fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for coming, Jacqueline. It's great to hear from you.
Yes, thanks for participating.
Thanks so much, Lindy. This was a really great session, and maybe a bit of a challenging time for folks. So we've recorded it actually, and we're going to post it on the conference app so that more of our friends and partners can soak in your wisdom. This is a really fantastic session. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lindy. I can't remember the last time I sat down for a couple hours and just got to take out some markers and do art. So that was a
We
really
don't do it
wonderful treat.
enough. Awesome.
Agreed,
That's
agreed.
good to hear. Thank you so much for coming.
I think it would be really cool if even seeing all this stuff in kids taking part in these kinds of activities, because I'd like to see for kids who are kind of they don't like to be messy or they're very particular, and to see kids kind of like get messy and paint and kind of like push those boundaries, because I know like even for me that would be pushing my boundaries of like
Yeah.
mixing everything and, like it's hard to just start something. So I
Yeah.
think it'd be really cool for kiddos actually take part in that. So thank you for all that.
I used to teach fabric arts, with essentially tie-dye at art camp. And I used to do it for adult students as well. And it's amazing to see that initial hesitancy to get into the colors. And then by the end, they're squirting it and they're right in there. It's a great
Right. I think it's
community
that
builder.
mentality. Yeah, totally that mentality of it has to be perfect. It has to look great. It has to look awesome. People see wow, right?
Yeah,
Instead of
absolutely.
just doing it. So it is 3:50. Thank you
Hey,
so much everyone for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day and your next sessions. Thanks
thank
so much,
you.
Lindy.
See you guys.
Thanks.